the fourth type of monitoring and assessment is diagnostic assessment. We'll be looking at the purpose of diagnostic assessment, and we'll be looking at its effects and its types and its effect on the overall monitoring and assessment feature of language curriculum design. Well, diagnostic assessment, what's its purpose then? Why we use diagnostic assessment? Well, it's essentially used to identify the gaps between the desired performance and the current knowledge of language, right? So it tells us the gaps and maybe the weaknesses, maybe the strengths of the students. So diagnostic assessment is considered an important part of needs analysis, which is usually done before the start of a course or before the start of a particular lesson. So this is how you can diagnose certain wants, necessities, and needs of the students. So for example, if the students are enrolled for English for academic purposes course, so what you do? You run a diagnostic assessment which tells you certain weaknesses, and this can help you remedy their weaknesses or the areas they are lacking, right? So the purpose is just to the findings which we use from diagnostic assessment. We can use these to assess how the progress of the course and the proficiency and placement tests. I mean, we could use this to interpret the findings resulting from proficiency and placement tests. For example, you could know that you can very well know the significance of diagnostic assessment in the light of this example. So for example, if you are teaching vocabulary, so you need to, the diagnostic assessment will help you identify the level of the students, whether they need low frequency vocabulary, whether they need high frequency vocabulary, or whether they are lacking academic vocabulary. If they need low frequency vocabulary, then you will make some informed decisions to mold your teaching methodology. And similarly, if they need high frequency, you might mold your teaching methodology. So this is how diagnostic assessment can have its positive effect on the overall design of the course. So there are different forms of this type of assessment. For example, that could come up in the form of written compositions, where you could engage students to do some writing exercises or reading tasks to diagnose whether they have the skills of skimming and scanning, or through written compositions you could know about their understanding of topic, sentence, or paragraph writing, right? And you could also assess their spoken performance through diagnostic assessment, whether they are able to use conversational or transactional language, and you eventually can observe their performance in the classroom. So as I said before, it has got a pivotal role in terms of assessing the usefulness of monitoring and assessment, because it helps learners once they are diagnosed, once we are sure these are the gaps and these are the areas where the learners need improvement. So we can mold our methodology, we can change our language teaching techniques and procedures in the classroom. And similarly, the learners, once they are highlighted about their strengths and weaknesses, so they could be motivated to set up their personal goals.